This is how you can instantly improve the way that you manifest. Very easy, 2 steps that you can start implementing immediately. And the idea behind this is that you're constantly manifesting everything around you. But when you're trying to become more intentional about it, there are ways to make it easier for you to get your signal through versus all the other noise that's going around. So the first is actually not doing it from survival. Why? Because when you're in survival, your lens of reality is distorted. So the things you might actually want might not really be truly what you want, but rather simply because you're running away from something or running towards something. So, easy example, if you haven't had any piece of food, if you've ever fasted or tried anything like that, if I starve you of food for a full week, at that point, I could offer you almost anything and you'd take it. Not because that's a certain food you want. It could even be something that you dislike. Think specifically of a food that you don't like eating. But if I starve you for a week, you're gonna have that. It doesn't matter at that point. Your preference is irrelevant. But that's because you're operating from survival. But now, if you're fully fed and I come to you offering you a food that you know you don't like, you will refuse it. You'll realize in that state where you're more authentic, you don't want that. That's not something you truly desire. So the idea is when you're asking for something, when you're trying to design the new version of your reality, we're trying to do it in a state where it's from what we truly want, not because we're running away from something. And an easy way to do that is by shifting our perception, bringing back the ability to imagine. And the questions that I like to ask myself is, what if anything was possible? What if I was maximally abundant? What if I had 3 wishes? Because most people will start to think about things from a perspective of lack. So if I take all of that away, if I tell you, you can have anything you want right now, I'm giving you 3 free wishes. Now, what do you want? Okay? Notice the immediate shift in your body when you start to, almost because you think it's fantasy, you start to imagine all the possibilities. You're no longer thinking about what you want from the limited view of certain societal constraints or beliefs that you have that are running your life of what you think is possible. At this point, I'm telling you, anything is on the table. What would you like? So immediately that's going to shift your energy, and you notice that now you start to actually think about things that you might truly, inside of you, truly desire. Number two, and I always go back to this, is, in my opinion, the best way to actually manifest is always using the power of gratitude. Why? Because when you're grateful for something, it means you've received. You wouldn't be grateful if you haven't received anything, right? So that shift in that state of receivership automatically is pushing you up into a higher frequency. And just like we said, if you're trying to manifest from lower frequencies, again, it's not ideally where we want to be. So if you look at something like the David R. Hawkins, he has his map of consciousness, and you start to see the different levels, and you notice how all of these lower vibrations, lower frequencies, and emotions sit further down on the scale. But when you're more gratitude and peace and acceptance and love, you start to move higher up, which is going to support you in actually bringing in more of what is at that level, right? Because you only attract what you are. So if you sit at these lower frequencies, you bring more of that into your life. So by being grateful, you automatically also shift yourself up into these different levels, and you start to manifest the right way, because it's no longer about desire, it's rather stepping into what it is that you want. Most people manifest by imagining what they want, but all they're doing is they're reaffirming that they don't have it. Whereas what we're trying to do is understand that anything is possible, and we're simply trying to shift into a new reality, step into a new version. Just like we change the channel on the TV or on the radio. That's what we're doing. It's a simple shift. And gratitude is the easiest way to do it, because you immediately feel like you've become the person, you've received something. And that also then leads you well into detachment, because if you truly believe that you've experienced a thing, if you've gotten the emotion, the feeling that's on the other side of being that person, then you will drop importance. The person that has the thing doesn't think about it all day long. And here's a little bonus tip for those of you that have stuck to the end. The way you carry yourself throughout the rest of the day is take advantage of the way that your brain works, which we know that it is a filter that uses your beliefs and filters versions of reality to you based on those beliefs. So it almost supports its own beliefs. So if you are practicing believing that you're this new version of yourself, then you will slowly start to notice things in your environment that support that. At first, they might be small because it's a new identity you're stepping into. But however small it is, I want you to hyperfixate on that and use that as, once again, confirmation of this new identity, confirmation that you are truly who you say you are, who you felt you were, that you've stepped into this identity because of this small piece of evidence in my environment. And this starts the ball rolling, connects, builds the habit, connects these neural pathways in your brain, and it starts to become more and more embedded, and it becomes almost unconscious at that point. You don't need to think about it, and you truly believe that you are that person.